Good afternoon, dear user. I confess, I really did not feel like making this movie. I've been feeling a bit sad today, notwithstanding the fact that I was thinking of talking about something that might be called the other side of sadness, which I will reminisce upon shortly. But how can I not make a movie when it's so perfect, right? There's several minutes left before sunset and I break my fast. I just completed my jog. So this is the beautiful storm pond, I guess is what it would be, right? It looks like a lake. It's amazing. You know, God is great. I always find these amazing nature spots, right? And this one over here, by the way, total fluke. It's tucked in behind some houses, right? I mean, basically, it's not really accessible. It's kind of accessible from a main road over there. But I went out for a jog, and you know, part of going out for a jog is the solitude aspect. You just want to get away from things. And it seems sometimes, actually even today, you come outside and then there's a car passing just where you want to pass. Or there's a dude walking there. And you know, it's not like I'm a misanthrope, a hater of mankind. It's not like that at all. I love mankind, frankly. And you should too. And maybe I'll talk about that briefly as well. But in any case, you know, I kind of took a couple of turns here and there to avoid the odd car and the odd person. And I was just randomly running off into the distance, right? And then I passed like one of these houses. I was coming down the street, and then I saw a trail. And then I saw the beautiful pond of Alberta. This has now been christened by me the Pond of Alberta. Right, you can almost imagine there's mountains, and that's what they look like, by the way. The Rocky Mountains. So like if there were no houses over here, you'd be able to see the Rocky Mountains in the distance, and that's kind of what they look like. You know, these ominous shapes in the distance. So yeah, so in terms of loving other people, believe it or not, I wrote a book. I have written a book. And yes, you know what? I'm gonna walk this way. My arm's hurting. So, yeah, man, the sun's coming down over the house. It's really quite beautiful. So I wrote a book. I wrote a book called, well, this is the working title. The working title of the book is How to Love People, and in brackets, and not fear them. And you'll be like, what kind of madness is this? It's a small book. It's about 100 pages or something like that. Just like The Art of Suffering. I wrote a book called The Art of Suffering. They're basically how-to manuals. Obviously one day they'll be widely read and I'll be famous and whatnot. But by then, of course, the catch-22 of it will be that I won't give a hoot about such things. I'm actually reaching that point, dear user. Reaching the point of not really caring. About what? About so-called success. I've been chasing success for so many years now. I'm like, oh man, I'm so gifted and talented and intelligent. Great communicator, great writer, great salesperson, great marketing mastermind. And right, I've been scratching out a living literally as a security guard for 7 years. Great. Now I got to edit both of them together again. You know, what's amazing is that everything's changed. Now I have people coming after me and calling me and, you know, reaching out to me on Skype and Upwork and stuff like that. God is great. God is really great. So, yeah, so this book. So, yeah, I mean, I've reached a point, honestly, where, right, I'll work a deal. Okay, this is what it boils down to, right? So, as a supposed digital marketing agency owner, or as a supposed business person, your job would be to find deals, which are clients, right? I mean, essentially a client is basically a deal, right? So what you're doing is you're you're engaged in outreach, okay? Outreach. You know, calling people, emailing people, messaging people. You know, there's a new thing that works really well for me, ringless voicemails, right? If you're interested, you should check out this amazing company called dropcowboy.com. Dropcowboy.com, right? So they have RVMs, ringless voicemails. And so my long-standing rule in sales is I never call anyone unless I've got their email address as well. So, you know, because no one returns your call and no one returns your email. But if you call them and email them, they may return your email. You know, I mean, I don't know. It's possible. I think it helps, right? And yeah, for sure. You know, some people are prone to respond to emails, right? If I see something in my inbox which is of interest, I'm probably not going to ask, oh, how did it get here and all this kind of stuff. If the dude has something of value to offer, it's like I recently purchased a domain name www blah 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 from Hostinger.com. Hostinger is like a GoDaddy. Now, first of all, I don't recommend you use GoDaddy. Literally just yesterday, I took another client of mine off of GoDaddy, right? I basically, what I did is I pointed the domain to my own hosting provider. Because GoDaddy, as far as I'm concerned, see, my arm's hurting again, right? And there's people up there, right? So, I don't know, shall I just walk in the other direction? How interesting, I'm wondering, is it for there to be a lake? I should probably just go sit down, right? I don't know why I'm trying to walk around. It's not that interesting, right? My whole point is trying to make the landscape aspect interesting for you, dear user. You know, I popped this phone out and started shooting, not wanting to, but realizing it was the perfect opportunity, and as well that it would help my mood, right? So we're talking about sales, right? So check out dropcowboy.com if you're interested. Excellent product, very simple, excellent support and service, right? So I mean, basically for about $50 a month you get 1,000 ringless voicemails, right? I don't know if that's up your alley, but it's about, like, what is it now? It's about 5 cents of ringless voicemail, something like that, 2 to 5 cents. So now what you do is you go there and you use the coupon code POW. So if you use the coupon code POW, then they'll give you 50% off for the first month. But here's the point. The point is, if you're paying for marketing and you're getting an ROI, then it's definitely worth it. It's like if you're paying for Google ads or Facebook ads, but you're actually, for every dollar you spend, you can even make $1.25. You know, just getting to that point, it's like the same as with stocks. 98% of people apparently lose their money in the stock market. But if you can get to a point with advertising where you spend $1 and you generate, you know, profit, that's the real thing. So I've gone back into that on the side. Like, I've got my side hustle has now become my main hustle, right? Which is digital marketing. But once you're into side hustles, there's always more side hustles. And so I literally recently bought a $1,000 course about Facebook advertising again, right? And you'll be like, wow, why? Right? I mean, I've spent like tens of thousands of dollars, at least thousands, like over $10,000 for sure on, you know, this is what I tell people. If you want to succeed and make money online, I mean, anyone can make money online. It's so easy. But getting to that point, you need to spend thousands of dollars and multiple years, you know, 2 to 5 years and 5 to 10 grand. Listen, it's possible that you can figure it out sooner. It is possible that you can figure it out sooner. But the truth is that that's the average hit rate. And there's people that spend way more than that. And it's not just make money online, it's just be successful in general, right? So, you know, in order to succeed, here's the thing, what it boils down to in terms of business. Basically, it's like my ex-boss, Veer Gidwani, said. him and his brother, he was 23 years old. He just graduated from Western Business School or something like that here in Canada. And his brother was 19 years old, and he was like a software genius. So Veer is the elder brother, 23, business genius and sales master. And Vinay was the software genius, right? And it's like, I've been looking for that dude my whole life almost. Like the Steve Wozniak to the Steve Jobs, or the Bill Hewlett to the David Packard, right? Or the Paul Allen, or to the Bill Gates, something like that, right? So a lot of these amazing companies like the Apples and Microsofts of the world, HP and so forth, you have one business dude and one technical dude, and I'm looking for that technical dude. I think I finally found the right guy in Pakistan. And I was going to say to you that it's gone to a point where, so you do this outreach, right? If you go to Dropless, like dropcowboy.com, bring us voicemails, you can send out like 100 or hundreds of them, literally, right? So the way it works out for me is if I send out 100 emails and 100 voicemails, I'll get about 5 responses. 2 of them polite no's, one of them like angry, and 1 or 2 like interested people. So, I mean, if you can basically just keep doing that, right? So now I have the facility, through software and different things I do, I can send out literally hundreds of emails a day, literally hundreds, and then hundreds of voicemails. I haven't even been doing that for the last several weeks, more or less, just because I've been so busy. God is so great. I had my biggest day today. I was paid on the largest invoice to date. For me, it's still like a 4-figure deal, a four-figure day, which means, over $1,000, right? But it's amazing. It's an amazing feeling. And I've gone here after getting to a point where I just couldn't care less, right? So I'll put my message out there, and it's a great message. Like, so for example, we're selling, like we meaning me and people who help me do these things, right? I work with all kinds of different people, right? Software creators and Google ad company in Florida, and then obviously this website and development team in Pakistan, right? So one of the things that I have been focused on, with the whole COVID thing, is online ordering system for restaurants. So I can take any restaurant and hook them up with a beautiful WordPress-based online ordering system. And so, I'll retail this thing for anywhere from $5.99 to $9.99, right? $7.99, whatever, dude. So what does it cost to me? Yeah, well, I mean, maybe $100 to get the thing up and running, right? $100, right? So with digital marketing and agency work and stuff like that, and this whole model of you being the middleman, and you find outsourcers on Upwork.com, or you find outsourcers on Fiverr. And by the way, it's a great business model, and you'll find a lot of amazing people. Like if you have a technical problem, you go to Fiverr.com, like with this restaurant stuff. I had people on Fiverr answering some of my questions in the early days, right? So I was talking to a restaurant. They're like, well, we use this POS system. Does that integrate with the WooCommerce plugin that you're using in WordPress? I had no idea. Then I find there's like literally dozens of WooCommerce experts on Fiverr. So you basically just go and start asking questions. You're looking for someone who has some good ratings, but is also responsive. And then basically, it's business. It's like our 60 Imam said, peace be upon him. You need to take a risk, right? You need to take a risk. In business, there's always a risk. So now, you're sending out your voicemails. If you go to dropcowboy.com, use the promo code POW for your first month. But whatever the case, it's deals, like opportunities, right? So this is what it is. This is how people become successful. You have to hone that opportunistic part of you, right? You have to, you got to understand, right? You have to fail like at 50, opportunities to 100 opportunities before you actually make it. The way it's worked for me is like I started sales and marketing consulting having no idea what I wanted to do, what my offer was, what my price point was, no sales process, nothing, right? You know, just I don't even know if I had a website back then. So basically what I would do is it's interesting, it's very interesting actually, because what I would do is I would reach out to, I was into software, right? I worked for software companies for 10 years. So what I did is basically I looked up software companies and like online phone directory or whatever, just a list of software companies, and I started going to their websites. And what I came up with was that a lot of these websites are crap, and especially with these startups and stuff like that, or less mature companies that don't have a marketing agency taking care of their marketing, a lot of times their messaging on the website, like just the verbiage, like you go to the home page and it's just like, it sounds like a 12th grader, right? It doesn't have that polish, it's not engaging, it's not like impactful. You know, and I developed this whole philosophy. My initial sales and marketing blog, and even my so-called consultancy, was called Sales and Marketing for You. You in quotation marks. And I was just explaining this literally to a real client, thankfully. Like after a decade later, the thing is finally coming full circle. It's gone from sales and marketing for you to digital marketing for you. You know, digital marketing for you separated by hyphens.com. And I also have sales and marketing for you separated by hyphens.com. But after a decade, it's finally come around. So the whole thing is predicated around the you. So what is you? Sales and marketing for you. So you is a word, obviously. When it's apostrophized like that, it's the actual word you. So it's not talking about you, my client, but it's talking about the ultimate end user or consumer who would be your client. So the whole premise is that when you go to a lot of these websites, or when you see a lot of this marketing, or when you talk to the average sales guy, it's always me, my product, my company. Or you'll see these huge kind of statements like, overbearing essentially. We are the greatest, yada yada, or we won so many awards, or you'll never, it's just nauseating to me. Average sales and marketing campaign talking about how great they are, and it's so silly, it doesn't make any sense. Talking about how great they are and how great their product is, and they're swooning and they have people falling over it. It's just disgusting and reprehensible, and basically a sad statement on the self-absorbed human ego. Anyway, you, right? So use the word you. Make your marketing about you. Make your product about you and answering the problems of this character. Who is this you? You need to really understand that at the end of the day, your message is going to be read by someone like yourself. So if you're walking along and you saw something on the side of a house that said, "I'm the greatest house in the world," well, that might not be a bad hook, as it were. I pretend to be this marketing genius. I honestly, dear user, I don't know if you're listening to this because the wind was so bad on the last video, but it's true. Just pulling this silly thing out, this phone, and rambling incessantly, I feel much better. I almost feel good. Notwithstanding the fact, see, this is what I'm talking about. Notwithstanding the fact that I had the best business day in my life. I banked 4 figures. Okay, I'm not going to reveal the amount, but 4 figures is pretty, like, for one day. Like, of course, it's not like, the work took, like, leading up to this took a couple of months at least, right? It's a deal. It's basically a deal where the guy signed the contract and has paid me, right? So, and now I go, so it's a classic case. So what it is it's a $2,500 website deal, right? you know, you'll see courses and people out there talking about selling websites for 1,500 bucks. It's not easy, by the way. It's not easy. Selling a website for 1,500 bucks, it sounds great. Oh yeah, every business needs a website. 40% of businesses need listen, I've offered people websites for 200 bucks because I have like some amazing software. I can pop out a website for like over 250 different niches, literally like in an hour, half an hour, 20 minutes, right? And then we'll work on it later. But in any case, here we are. So I was walking down here, tried to avoid some dude in a turban, and then I was just coming down here, and I was like, whatever. I was just gonna jog into the blue yonder, and then of course I saw this amazing vista, and it's really a godsend, right? I mean, I broke up with my wife, and that's kind of one of the reasons I've been feeling sad. I mean, I'll say this to you. I did want to talk about the other side of sadness, and I do want to talk about loving people. Like, loving people, what does it mean to love people, as opposed to judge and be critical of people and have those same faults within yourself, right? In the sense of, we judge people for being judgmental. There we go. How's that? Does that make any sense? Does it make sense for you to judge someone for being judgmental? That's what we do constantly. We're constantly judging people, and they're judging us back, and we're judging them on their judgment of us. And we think we're better than them, and they think they're better than us. The truth is, here's the truth. I'll lay it on you. Truth is not that we're equal. You shouldn't give yourself any grandiose notions that you're the same as other people. Now, on the one hand, I say this to people. It depends, obviously. If a person is feeling low and sad and has low self-worth, then I'll say something like, well, listen. Right? It's like Don Juan said, you got to trick people sometimes in order to teach them. So if someone's feeling low, you say to them, well, listen, these guys have fancy houses, and they have fancy cars, and they're happy, or whatever it is, right? You know, if your friends can find love, why can't you find love? Or if XYZ person can be successful, the point there is that nobody, I mean, it's interesting, right? On the one hand, you know, no one is better than you, or no one's more deserving than you. Inna akrama indallahi atqakum. The Quran says that none of you is better than the other, except for the God-fearing one, right? And obviously the atheist element at this point will rise up, feathers ruffled, saying, what do you mean, God? Well, let's just put another O in there. Let's just say good, okay? The only people who are better than others are good people. If you think you're better than others, then, and by the way, here's an interesting one. Good people think they're bad, and bad people think they're good. So if you really think you're good, if you think you're good, you probably aren't good. This is the thing. And if you think other people are better than you, it depends how you think that. Because on the one hand, nobody is deserving of like success and these material trinkets or happiness, whatever it is that fascinates people. And me too, of course. I'm a materialist. Why do you think I quit the corporate world and I've been trying to make 10 grand a month for the last, I'd have to say 10 years, maybe 5 to 10 years. That's been my goal. 10 grand a month, 10 grand a month, 10 grand a month. Why? Well, because in the world of internet marketing, that's where it starts, right? In the job-a-day world, in the work-a-day world, 100 grand a year is kind of like, whoa. People don't even say that anymore. It's like unheard of almost. I mean, of course, many hundreds of thousands and millions of people make that kind of money, but for the average schlock like yourself and myself, you know, I used to make 100 grand, over 100 grand in the corporate world. And this was like 12, 13 years ago. I mean, incidentally, like I left, more or less left at that point, right? You know, I had a couple of corporate engagements after that, but literally just weeks and months, nothing serious. But the last job in the corporate world that I was at for years, when I left there, I was making like, I think it was like something like, if I'm not mistaken, well, I mean, basically I had an 80 grand base pay and 80 grand compensation on top of that, right? Bonus pay, because it was a sales compensation plan. Anyway, I was a solution strategist, as it were, at Computer Associates. So 10 grand in the internet marketing world a month is where it's at. So now, let's just quickly circle around and try and tie everything together. I don't know why I go on these rambling dissertations, long-winded and circular dissertations. Now, when we see other people, we don't love them. By the way, I do love them. When I see other people, they may be judging me, but I'm thinking they're cute. Like kids, this is it. Like, so I wrote this book, How to Love Others and Not Fear Them. So part of it is being aware, obviously, of the problem and trading your mind. A big part of it, right? Now, there may be naturally nice people, naturally popular people, people who are basically people who are inclined to love on others, like a Gandhi, right? But I'm sure, honestly, I'm sure that even a Gandhi trained his mind, right? I wanted to say the other day that this amazing, like, landscape, it reminds me so, it's like my childhood again. It's really crazy, dear viewer. It's like my childhood in Kuwait, right? So I spent the first 6 years of my life in Scotland, right, where my dad got his PhD, bless his soul. And then in 1981, we moved to Kuwait, and I was 6 years old. And this is literally just like that. This is what it was like to me, going from this lush, beautiful, mountainous country, right, with greenery and normalcy, I dare say, to the desert. I mean, of course, there were beautiful cars and ACs and everything was great, but the actual landscape, right, the landscape, it was just so mysterious and magical, right? Endless possibilities, open space, you know, and machinery, right? And the sand and the hills, and very reminiscent of my time in Kuwait. So I dare say that I was going to tweet this, I might as well just tell you, dear viewer. I was going to tweet this line that I came up with. It's not even me, it's something like one of these Amway guys. I forget all their names now. That's very interesting. For years I was like the ultimate bibliograph of Amway memorabilia, in as much as I'd listen to so many CDs and talk to so many diamonds and basically gone to so many rallies and functions that literally I was a historical tome of all this Amway stuff. So Bill Britt, he has a lawyer friend in Charlotte, North Carolina, called Paul something. Paul something may have said this, or even better, actually I really think it was these guys in Seattle. I totally forget his name. You know, he's Bradley Duncan and Bradley Duncan's sponsor, or rather Greg Duncan's sponsor. So I forget his name. Puryear, that's right, Ron Puryear. Right, so Ron Puryear said something like this to Bradley Duncan, and he'd say this to his group apparently. I've seen him in a Coliseum in Seattle, right? Rather Spokane. I have a financial advisor client in Spokane I need to do some work for tonight. But Ron Puryear, and so in Amway, multi-level marketing, and a diamond told me, and this would seem to be the case, that the whole business, it's not about products, it's not about CDs, it's not about books, it's not about money. It's obviously about people, and it's about loving on people and getting them to open up to you. And it's about sitting rooms, living rooms. This business is built in living rooms. That is what that diamond said. So, and you have to somehow attract people. Now, is there an element of kind of duplicity with the whole world of Amway? I don't know. I wasn't in it that long. I was in it for 7 years, and the truth is I did begin to see those kinds of cracks in the facade where, you know, the diamonds are not as perfect as the hero worshipping masses sometimes make them out to be. But in any case, they say amazing things and they do amazing things, and I would recommend that you just listen and learn from people like that, and once you've accomplished something yourself, or start a YouTube channel, and then you can pontificate, and maybe someone will listen to you one day. So Ron Prieur says to his group that the more you can relate, okay, so the more you can relate to different kinds of people, the bigger your business will be. And I'll put it like this. The greatness of a person is defined by their ability to essentially forgive and be compassionate to as many people as possible. And as many, you know, the worst and worst kinds of people. In a sense of, like, who knows? I don't know. Like, really, it's hard to talk about good, bad, and evil and stuff like that. But there are evil people in the world. And as I explained in kind of a rant the other day, it's like Imam Ali said, peace be upon him, sometimes strictness is the real kindness. If there's someone who is just a slob and he's taking advantage of people, or a criminal and they're deceiving people, they need to have their comeuppance, right? I believe this. Common sense would seem to follow that line of thinking. But for the most part, see, most of us, the problem is this. You're walking down the way and someone's walking up the way. And as soon as you guys experience each other, as in you're aware that they're coming towards you and they're aware you're coming, you know, for some reason this hyperactive judgmental mode kicks in, right? And you guys are sizing each other up, right? And it's especially like that here in the northwest of Calgary where I live, northeast, right? These are all Indian people for the most part, and Pakistanis and Bangladeshis and Sri Lankans. It's like Brown Town, basically. It's one of the reasons I really loved living with my wife in the southwest of Calgary. It's not that I'm racist, but I am racist, and I think everyone is racist. It's really as simple as that. Unfortunately, most Muslims are ignorant. Unfortunately, a lot of brown people, if not most of them, are ignorant. Still, in this day and age, living in this country. They go from one level of ignorance to another level of ignorance. It's like my beautiful mom used to say, you've got educated ignorant people too, right? I was just telling my Russian buddy, Taras, who's one of my clients in Toronto, you know, we're talking about the weather as usual. You know, when you're talking about the weather, you realize you're coming to the end of your conversation. And so just like me here with like 30 seconds left, Taras was like, God bless Canada. Like, oh, it's cold here in Toronto and it's May. And I was like, dude, God bless Canada. And I literally gave him a 10-minute speech about how amazing Canada is. And I said, aren't Canadian people amazing? They're just beautiful people. They're so nice, they're so humble, they're so correct, they're so principled, yada, yada, yada. Anyway, I'm going to go. We'll talk about love, and we'll talk about sadness, and we'll talk about whatever we need to talk about in other movies, because it is, after all, sunset, and it is 30 minutes, and you do need to leave me a like or a dislike here, don't you now? Thanks for listening. See you later.